Hi, I'm Steve Boosty. I'm the owner of the Museum of the Weird in Austin, Texas. The museum is a collection of oddities. We've got everything from mummies to shrunken heads to Fiji mermaids. The main inspiration behind opening the Museum of the Weird was I was kind of inspired by a lot of the history of the sideshow and what was known as the Dime Museum. Back in the early 19th, 20th century, the Dime Museum was kind of a it was like the Disneyland of that era, you know, and it was mainly popularized by a man named P.T. Barnum. And he was the one who kind of started the first Dime Museum in New York called Barnum's American Museum. And this is kind of an homage to those type of museums, and especially to Barnum and what he was doing. So the very first exhibit, I do remember it clearly, it was our Fiji mermaid. And it was because a lot of stuff in the museum we used to have for sale in the store. And I had this one thing, it was called the Fiji mermaid. And if you don't know what it is, it's kind of a famous exhibit in the sideshow industry or in Dime museums. It goes back to the time of P.T. Barnum. He was the first person to really show off the Fiji mermaid. And what it looks like is, you know, he would advertise it on banners as a beautiful, you know, like half-naked mermaid, and people would pay admission to go in to see this, and then they would see this horrifying-looking mummified creature that, you know, they didn't know what it was. And so we ended up getting one back in the early days. It was even before we opened the Museum of the Weird, when all the exhibits were originally for sale in our gift shop. And so and I still have it to this day. The Fiji mermaid that you see in the museum is our very first exhibit we ever got. Now I've gotten about 4 or 5 other Fiji mermaids since then, but the original is still my favorite. The only requirement we have for putting stuff on display is really, it's got to be something weird and amazing. So if it's not weird enough, I kind of will pass on a lot of stuff. You know, like it's got to have a certain amount of weirdness or interest to people. And if it's just, you know, but then again, even the most ordinary object can have an amazing, remarkable story. My favorite exhibit is like the thing that started it all for me. It's the Minnesota Iceman. And you know, the reason why it's my favorite is because if I had not seen it as a young, impressionable child, I probably would have never opened a Museum of the Weird. This is the thing that started my whole lifelong interest in pursuing the unknown and the unusual things in the world. In the beginning, before we opened the museum, the gift shop, Lucky Lizard Curios and Gifts, was kind of like my idea of the Museum of the Weird, but we had stuff for sale in there. So we were selling, you know, like oddities, like, you know, I would tell my wife, wouldn't it be cool to have like, you know, some jewelry and maybe some t-shirts and then like a shrunken head right in the middle of the store. And she was like, you're crazy. Nobody's going to want to buy Fiji mermaids and mummies and stuff like that. They want, you know, t-shirts and jewelries. So I figured, well, maybe I can, you know, that's when we had the space in the back of the store that wasn't being used. And I was like, you know, we can come up with a little museum back here. Initially I was going to call it the Freakatorium, but there was already a place in New York called the Freakatorium. So I was like, then I thought, well, you know, Austin, the slogan here is Keep Austin Weird. What about Museum of the Weird? And so that was how the name got, you know, I came up with the name Museum of the Weird, was the Keep Austin Weird slogan for Austin. One of the goals that I have with the Museum of the Weird was I really wanted to kind of share with the public the wonderful and, you know, mysterious things of the world, and to kind of get them to open their minds a little bit, like to make them look at something and say, could this be real? But what I've found is it doesn't really have that effect on them. It doesn't change people's minds or open their minds to different ideas. What it does is it enhances what they already believe. So, for instance, we'll get people that come in and they fully expect everything in this museum is going to be fake. They know, they're like, it's all going to be phony and fake. And they come in the museum with that mindset and they leave like knowing that everything was fake. Okay, I knew it. Everything that I looked at was phony, and it was fake, and it wasn't real. I knew it. It was just they leave amplified with what they already came in. Then other people will come in who believe in everything, and they're like, "Wow, did you see the Fiji mermaid? Those things really exist out there in the world, and you know, and it's real." And it's like, you know, and the truth is, the truth is just like the real world. It lies somewhere in between. You know, like I purposely put things in the museum that maybe aren't entirely true or entirely real, but right next to it will be something that is real. And it's and that's the secret. That's what I won't tell people what's real and what's not. I will say, I could say maybe about 74% of it is real. You know, and there's a few what's called gaffes, like things in sideshow terminology. That's called a gaff is something that's a fake or a manufactured item that's, you know, maybe intended to look like a real thing but isn't. But the truth is somewhere in between. And so it's kind of fascinating in that I've found that I don't really, you know, it's not really necessarily changing people's minds or opening their minds to the possibilities of the world. It's almost like kind of reinforcing what they already came in believing. So it's more of a statement on maybe sociology or something. I don't know, but it's very interesting. When we first opened the museum for the grand opening, we had already kind of let a few people in the back already. So, like, you know, over the few months that I was kind of constructing the museum, because like I said in the beginning, the museum was the gift shop. So all the oddities that were now on display used to be for sale in the store, and I was selling a lot of like really cool things that I knew like were one of a kind items, and I was never going to see those things again. So when I decided to, you know, do the museum, I was like, we gotta stop selling these weird, freaky stuff and save them for the museum. Well, the day we opened, I was surprised at how many people actually were lining up to come in, because I didn't think I thought it was going to be just like, you know, a handful of people, like, what's that in the back, you know, and maybe pay admission to go in. In the beginning, we only charged $3 to go in, and it was a lot smaller. There was just a few exhibits, but I did it more just as like a little roadside attraction, you know, for people to kind of get people to come in. But I was surprised. It got like the response was overwhelming. It kind of helped that we opened on Pecan Street Festival, which is like the biggest street festival of the year. But that was the grand opening, and it was a lot of fun. Everyone enjoyed it. You know, one of the things I do want to say is you know, if you have a dream, follow your dreams. Don't let anyone discourage you, and don't get, you know, off track. Try to stay focused, because if you follow your dreams, anything is possible. I am living proof of that. Who else in the world would have opened a museum of the weird and thought they could get away with it? I did it, and it's been the best thing I ever did. And I've been able to share this with the world and with you guys. And if you got a dream, go for it. Follow it. Anything's possible. But anyway, welcome. Thank you so much for having me in your documentary. And anyone who wants to come visit us, we are open every day of the year, 10 a.m. till midnight, 412 East 6th Street, Museum of the Weird. Come and visit us.